Check certification, the open meetings law requirements have been met, Paul. Thank you. We have a 16-item agenda. Looking for a motion? Okay. There and there. Yep.
But you want to move one, right?
Yep, yeah, we have a request to item 11 to move up to, after item 7, general fund update, because the government solutions people are online. I believe they are here.
Yes, I see.
As long as they're available, so they don't have to sit and wait through all this. So with that adjustment, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear any negatives, so I'll say carried. Adoption of minutes from a previous meetings.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Second. Any questions on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. We now have the public comment period. Members of the public will have a 15-minute block of time to comment on today's agenda items. Members may be present in person, call in to make such comments. To comment by telephone, please call 715-538-1894. Public comment may be extended or curtailed at the discretion of the committee/board chair after advisement by the committee board. I don't see anybody in the audience today. So we will leave this open for the 15-minute period. If we see or hear from somebody, we will bring it back in. So anybody wants to call in, please call 715-538-1894. With that, we have the county sales tax update.
Okay, our collection for May, I guess actually for June, I'm sorry, $198,201.82, which is lower than the last 2 years. We're just a little bit behind what we were last year right now, at $801,354.33.
Hopefully next month is like the last month where they catch up and we get back in.
Yeah, we were ahead last
Yep.
month.
Okay, any questions on it? General fund update.
No change.
No
It's
change.
still at $2,858,400.78.
Okay. Now, we will move item 11 up to here with final report by Government Solutions, the assessment of the financial condition and review of assessment of financial systems and procedures. Steve Corbell and Mike Konecki.
Yeah, I want to welcome both Steve and Mike. Good morning. And
Morning.
yeah, thanks to these guys for their work and meeting with everybody and working with our staff here and putting together this report. And so I'll just turn it over to you guys if you want to head off. If Danielle, can you allow the screen share for Steve, please?
Can everybody see that?
Half of it.
Half of it, it's
It's coming up, yeah, a little funny.
Hang on, let
there.
me try it.
That's better. Yep,
How's that?
Yep, there you go.
perfect. Yep.
Sorry about that. So my name is Steve Corbell. My partner, Mike Konechny, is in one of the chicklets below me or somewhere on the screen. So anyway, we want to thank you for the opportunity to work with Trempealeau County. It was, I mean, just to share some high-level feedback, the staff members that you have were very cooperative, very excited to see what, you know, I would describe it as they're anxious for some change. And, you know, so that was exciting for us to see, you know, the willingness and the opportunity for government to evolve. I mean, that's kind of where my partner and I are at. We've had a long-term tenure of time serving municipal government in various capacities. And I don't know, Rebecca, is it appropriate if we just tell a little bit about ourselves too for everybody, or
Yeah,
are you
please.
familiar?
Yep, go ahead. please.
Okay. So I can tell you a little bit about myself, Steve Corbell, and then when I turn it over to Mike, he can tell you about himself. So I think together we provide a unique aspect in such that I come from the appointed side of things and the elected side, and Mike comes more from the accounting and reporting side of things. So my background is I have 23 years experience in county government, serving in capacities from in the finance department, human services department, and ultimately 8 years as county administrator for Marinette County. I served 10 years for the city of Manitowoc, was where I retired from in 2021, as their finance director treasurer. And I also was elected to the Marinette City Council for a term while I lived up in that area. So I've sat in your chairs at the city council level, not at the county level, but nonetheless know what the pressures are on an elected official to manage and be stewards of the county tax dollars. So I just want to start off by saying that. So our assessment, of course, was a combination of different things. We did send out surveys to all of you as board members. We did a similar thing with department heads. And then we actually were there for 2 days, meeting with departments, including the healthcare center. And we did gather the information that we have summarized and contained in the report that we're presenting to you. I believe everybody does have a hard copy of the report. That's correct? Yes?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So what I have in my presentation is just some bullet points that we'll run through. And certainly if there are questions as we move along, feel free to, ask them, or if you choose, wait till the end. Either will be fine. So with that, I will get started with our presentation here today. So there were,
I hate to interrupt you, but where's the hard copy on our agenda?
It's in the packet.
Yeah.
I'm looking where exactly.
It says final report, Trempealeau.
That's the one?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't find it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about the interruption.
oh no, that's fine. So just as an overview, there were 5 areas that we broke down our study into. 1, financial condition of the county. 2, an assessment of the ERP system, enterprise resource planning system, which is your accounting system, so to speak, and payroll system, New Vision. And then a review of the annual budget process. We understand that you just migrated to the county administrator form of government. And then a couple other items, which are internal control improvements, which deal with placing safeguards around the county's assets to try to make them more secure, to put checks and balances in place, and then other best practices. So as the result of this, we did come up with 14 recommendations that are contained in detail in the report that you have. And we're going to verbally go through that report here with this presentation. On the next slide, our objectives in our study were to look at your cash flow and overall financial conditions and reporting of financial information. And that's to all customers of the financial information, which the county board's a customer, departments are customers, taxpayers can be customers, oversight agencies can be customers of grants and things of that nature. So we looked from that perspective on how the system functioned and how it provided information. Our comment is that we believe it's in your best interest to upgrade your current New Vision software system with a new enterprise you'll hear this term ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning Software Package. That's the technical name for it. It's really your accounting system or payroll system. There are some limitations with the current version you have. I know the county has asked Banner, which sells the current product. They have an upgraded system. I think you're going to probably look at a couple other systems. But ultimately, there are new functionality items built into modern systems that will benefit you overall for not a huge increase in cost either, I would think. And then implementing revised and additional budgeting procedures to more effectively prepare your annual budget, and then including developing a capital expenditure plan that you can help guide you through replacement of assets in the future. Now, what I will say is the recommendations that we have, I don't want you to think that, or mislead you to think that these can all be done like tomorrow or, even the next day. Some of this will take 6 to 18 months, in our opinion, to fully implement. Certainly, there are some low-hanging fruit items that you could easily implement automatically, very quickly. Other things will take some time to either instill new processes to your organization and get things up and running. With that, I will turn it over to Mike, who will cover the financial condition aspect and tell you a little bit about himself.
Okay, thanks, Steve, and thanks for everybody to give us this opportunity to talk to you and complete this report. Just a little background on myself. I spent my whole career working with Wisconsin governments, a little bit with Michigan, I guess, but anyway, mostly Wisconsin. And I was with various CPA firms from 1980 through 2016, I think is when I retired, and was working with one of the largest CPA firms in the state that did government work, and I was in charge of the entire government department. But I've been working probably for at least half of the counties in Wisconsin, and for many of them for a number of years, doing audits, financial reports, various consulting for various counties. A lot in eastern and central Wisconsin, and we're just becoming, and Steve and I have been involved now with some other western Wisconsin counties. So anyway, we feel, I guess what that brings to what I bring to the table is I've seen these things, upgrades and changes to county financial systems, in many different counties, and how they were implemented and what they've done. And there have been quite a lot of changes, obviously, since the 1980s till now, with abilities of technology and different ways to monitor things also. So anyway, I'm still a licensed CPA, and like Steve and I, were retired, but we still feel we have something to offer to Wisconsin government just because of our long history. And just a little overview on the financial condition, and we do detail it in a little bit in some of the reports. We feel the county's general fund it is certainly at adequate levels. I know we looked at the 2022 financial statements, which the general fund was a little higher at that point, but I know you've transferred money out in 23 for various things, and we have not seen your 23 financial statements yet, but we still feel certainly your general fund's in an adequate unassigned balance. We've also looked at some of the key the two key enterprise funds that you have at the county. The highway department, and I have a lot of experience working with highway departments across the state, and they are not in as good financial shape. And in fact, at the end of 22, they actually had a negative cash balance, meaning the general fund was covered. It wasn't a large number. I think it was about 157,000 relatively, and that can happen. But we do talk about some other things with the highway department too, that maybe I'd like to touch on a little bit before we talk about the healthcare center is, um, right now your highway department accounts for everything into one enterprise fund and like Steve will talk about it later too, we're recommending that you separate out the county tax levy and state aids. You get quarterly state aids, or I think it's 3 checks now actually counties get. But anyway, um, a gas tax subsidy, if you want to call it that, transportation tax. But anyway, that many counties separate that out into a separate fund. It's called a special revenue fund, county road and bridges, and they become the customer of the highway department. And what this does is it shows your highway department as a true business type enterprise, with an operating income that's meaningful and you much easier to evaluate their financial condition. It's right now that part of it is mixed in with the machinery operations, bituminous operations, inventories, those kind of things. And in our opinion, it's a better way of accounting for highway for the county's appropriation on county roads. In addition, there's just one other thing I want to mention, which is a little um, somewhat unusual to me anyway. I'm not all that familiar with the county aid on town road program. And it's a specific state statute. And I know a lot of you are members of the highway committee, so you probably have been working with this for years. But it's where the county provides a levy of 400,000, the townships 600,000. So there's $1 million that is then spent on specific roads of the townships. And in eastern Wisconsin and central, do not see this. Highway departments do this. I was not aware of this in the 30-some counties I've been involved in before. So anyway, it's an expensive program. Obviously, the county is supplementing what towns have. But it also, there's a carryover of balances in there that at any point in time, there's a carryover finance number, or balance. And that hasn't been reflected on the county books per se. It's kept sort of in a separate spreadsheet, but obviously you need the money, you need the cash balances to fund that. And in evaluating your balance sheet, the highway does not have those funds like readily on hand. So anyway, we're suggesting you do a restricted cash account. It's an accounting entry to create that sort of fund within the highway department enterprise fund. So anyway, there's a lot of detail on that, and we I feel comfortable. We can certainly work with your highway department personnel to accomplish that fairly easily. Then we did meet with the healthcare center, and I think all of you are aware that I think you have a very efficient and well-run healthcare center. They do not get a tax levy from the county, and Steve and I are certainly familiar with other health-related organizations at counties that are supplemented with a tax levy. So I mean that's a very positive thing, obviously, and their fund balances are available. It's not the same as a general fund. Their equity and their financial condition is very strong. Just to mention that. Then we have another comment about, and this is, as I say, I've been working with counties for about, well over 40 years, and they committed and assigned fund balances. What you had in your, and again, I'm going back to 12/31/22. you had about committed and assigned fund balances about 4.2 million in your financial statements. 1.2 million was workers' compensation claims, some sort of reserve for that. And 3 million, approximately 3 million was assigned fund balances. And there's probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 different accounts in that. And I've seen this before, and this is kind of a long-term county thing that, amounts are carried over. Some are somewhat restricted through certain revenue sources, but a lot of them we feel could be looked at and possibly eliminated. And we've seen counties do that over the years. You're kind of, at times you create funds where the budget process is circumvented it a little bit because funds are carried over because they weren't spent in one year. And we feel another way to do that is to actually close them out and have them go through the budget process again, just because they had something budgeted, maybe it's things have changed and they no longer need those funds. So anyway, you probably have more of those than the average county that I've been working with. So that's kind of a general overview. Like I said, we believe you're certainly in good financial shape in total. We feel you can do a little bit different accounting for the highway department to kind of clear up that area to make it easier to see where it's at. But overall, we'd say the county's in good financial condition. And with that, I don't know if there's any questions or comments on that, or we're going to wait till the end. That's fine. I'll turn it back over to Steve and he can talk about the upgrade of the financial processing system.
Sure. Thank you. So then the next section is, as Mike mentioned, we did take a look at the New Vision software package you currently have. It functions and you're getting by with it, but there are certainly things that cause delays in reporting. Things can take, time to complete. And again, referring back to my original kind of comment is we looked at from the people that use your system. So departments use your system to do a number of things. Monitoring budgets, reporting information to state and federal oversight agencies to get reimbursement for certain programs. Those are all things that departments do with the data that is contained within that system. And at times, it is not reporting data in a current state so that departments can rely on it. So they are going off book, so to speak, and creating spreadsheets in different ways to kind of survive, because the state and feds are expecting, you to do monthly expense reporting in certain cases. And the county will need that funding to help its cash flow. So they, do what they need to do to survive, to submit a monthly claim. And they are doing that. But what happens as the result of that is, if you can imagine, they need to reconcile back to your ERP system, because the other side of this is when your auditors come in, they're going to audit the numbers from your ERP system to those claims. So that department needs to show that they reconcile and that they reported correctly what was contained in the county's ERP system, because that's what they're auditing. So it takes considerable time for departments to create spreadsheets, report the information, then go back and reconcile back to the ERP system when it is updated and the data is now accurate, say for the month of May or June or whatever month. So there is considerable effort being put forth by your county staff to kind of balance that whole scenario there. Specifically within the report, cash receipting, we looked at And in the cash receiving.
Hey,
Is
Steve, do you want to move to the next slide?
Oh,
Next
I'm
screen.
sorry.
Yep.
Got ahead of myself. Thanks, Mike.
It's okay.
So as far as cash receiving, currently, the county treasurer's office is the only office that uses cash receiving within your ERP system. What other systems do is they allow multiple departments to do receipting within the system. They're tracked, the receipts are pre-numbered, batches are kept track of. It's in my opinion, it makes you look better from a municipal standpoint that you're not writing out a handwritten receipt. You're actually issuing a receipt right from the system. It provides better internal control over those funds because they're receipted in as they're received from the person. And then the county treasurer, they would still turn in those deposits along with their batch to show that if I have $3,500 worth of receipts, I have checks and cash and whatnot that add up to 3,500. The treasurer would then still deposit those funds as they normally do, and things, roll forward from there. What does not happen in the current cash receiving environment is when a department gives an account number to the treasurer, the system does not check that it's a valid account number. So as you can imagine, with the volume of receipts, there are opportunities for account numbers not to be keyed incorrectly, which is one of the reasons why some of the downstream processes don't occur on a timely basis, is because there are things that need to be fixed. At different times of the year, it becomes more complicated when you're in January and February and you're doing, accounts receivable and accounts payable, meaning that you're charging things back to the prior year or accruing revenues back to the prior year. That gets very complex and can be, well, rather messy at times in a normal ERP environment even. So with that, I already kind of talked about monthly reporting and reconciling. Certainly there is a lot of effort there that we saw from departments maintaining various spreadsheets. And I will say your staff, are very proficient. I mean, they do it the best they can, but still it is effort that we think could be better utilized in other areas to avoid doing this if you don't have to. The next area is accounts payable processing. Currently, departments, purchase things throughout the course of their duties. They get invoices for it. They review the invoice, make sure it's appropriate and that they received all the goods and services. They turn those over to the clerk's office, who then enters them into the system. Some newer systems allow departments to key in all of their own accounts payable requests. The clerk would still accumulate all of those requests and issue the checks. The newer systems will allow departments to scan copies of the invoices and supporting documentation, and those are available later once the payment has been made, so that it's available to any departmental staff person who wants to look up something within the department. Hey, what do we pay on that bill back in February? You can look it up. It's also a resource for your audit firm, who does testing of your payables and different issuing of checks throughout the year. It's available for them, so it streamlines the process and captures that data at the time the check is issued, which then turns around and becomes a resource for you and others in doing subsequent work. Under the next section, which is payroll and human resources, employees currently complete paper timesheets, and those are routed for approval to their supervisor and ultimately get delivered to the clerk's office for processing. So new modern systems would allow employees to key in directly their timesheet to the system. There are checks and balances built into that would say that if Steve Corbell is supervised by Mike Konechny, When I completed my timesheet, it would get routed to Mike, who would then review it and approve it. And those final reviewed and approved records would get to the clerk for processing. Doesn't mean the clerk still doesn't have to review things, but it has gone through a couple steps by the time it has gotten there that are electronically documented versus on paper and pencil and sent in. It can also be used for vacation and sick and different types of requests. You know, people can key in and say, hey, I want to take off next Friday because the 4th of July is a Thursday. And the supervisor can review it. The system can check to make sure that they have the available leave time. You know, it tracks all that. The supervisor can then approve it, which will create their timesheet, excuse me, for the day. And just kind of brings that into a more technologically advanced environment. Security, currently, pardon me, currently at the county, under the new vision kind of installation, there's only one person that can create users on the system, and that's not in your IT department, which is a little bit unusual. Typically, in a municipal environment, if you can imagine, when an employee is hired, typically things are routed that say this employee gets access to these systems and you know, these modules, and that's routed via the hiring human resource function through to IT, who then, you know, is ultimately responsible for security on your systems. With this system, it's a little different in such that that does not reside with your IT staff. A new system would probably reside with your IT staff. Another thing that we noticed within your environment is that you don't have a centralized accounts receivable system. So for instance, if a department is billing a customer for something, they are tracking it and probably preparing the invoice from Word or Excel or some other system they've come up with. And it's a patchwork of monitoring. So some departments maybe are better at staying on top of it. Some maybe are not as aggressive. By making it a central thing, like a module within your ERP system, would allow for all accounts to be treated the same, and for those accounts to be monitored. It provides better internal control because a department, for instance, could issue an invoice and they could pay directly to the county treasurer. It wouldn't have to route back through that department to be paid. And that's certainly what we would recommend and have done in other counties, and it works very well. So that would be something that a new system would allow you to do too. Let's see. Moving on to the annual budget process. And I can stop now too. If anybody has a question, you're welcome to answer it, or I can keep rolling. All right, I'll keep rolling. So with the fact that Trempealeau County has migrated to the county administrator form of government from a coordinator, certainly there are a couple little nuanced differences with the way the budget kind of proceeds. And we think it's a good idea to document those and kind of come up with a timeline, which we've helped, you know, Rebecca kind of put into place. And this year it's going to be probably not followed according to the timeline because it's you're kind of implementing it midstream. And I know that it won't probably follow exactly the way we had kind of given in the beginning. And that's to be expected. I mean, we're getting things going and trying to make things happen on the fly. But for the future, it will help formalize a process of like departments requesting capital things, position revals, position requests, so that those items are all taken care of in advance of budget preparation so that going into the budget, you'll kind of know what's out there that you need to, that's your goal, is to include those things within the budget. And then as the county administrator develops the budget, they will prioritize things to make sure that we're achieving those goals to the best we can within the limitations that we all live with in Wisconsin as a county, levy limits and whatnot. So by doing that, it will assist with and streamline and make it a more transparent, I would say, process. Another item that we found when we met with some departments is to do a budget amendment. It seems to take a little bit of time and effort on their part, and they were concerned with, and I get it. So let's say, for instance, the department has a program they've already implemented and the state comes along and says, hey, we have an extra $3,500 we can give you to use for this program. Some counties and municipalities have gone to a series of budget amendment type, have a policy that describes if it's revenue that you're already involved with, a program that you currently have, and the state is just offering more money, you could streamline that approval for that department to accept it, thus lowering the cost to the county and county taxpayers versus having to go through several steps of committee approval to make that happen. Now, certainly if it's a new program, a new revenue stream, that's probably more of a policy decision that needs to come to the board. So there would be various levels of what you could do, what you couldn't do, maybe with county administrator approval, or, administrator approval and finance exec committee approval, and then ultimately board approval. So we have seen where entities have implemented policies and it has saved them time. It's made it easier for departments to accept those funds and to get their job done in their department. Another item that we believe is important is to develop a 5-year capital improvement plan, or a KIP. We are helping right now with that development. Your departmental staff are working on that plan currently. And so you'll see that coming down the road. This will involve typically items that are over $5,000 in cost. You can set your own threshold. Some have gone with 10,000 or, what have you, but most typically I think we've seen 5,000 as kind of the threshold. It'll describe revenue sources. So if a department has like a grant they have that will fund it, they'll put the request in for whatever the item is, show the funding. Some things will need county funds, tax levy, borrowing, what have you. That will all be described in that plan. And the one thing that we just want to let departments know is it's a plan, and certainly every effort will be made to implement the plan. But because of all the restrictions on county government, Rebecca or whoever the administrator is may not be able to include everything that's in the current year. Every effort will be done to do that, but obviously I think sometimes things need to shift on the fly. So just want to point that out. The other item that we have that Mike talked about before is to create a county road and bridge fund. As Mike said before, currently your highway department, everything runs through one fund. So when the highway department bills a town for work, they bill the state for work, that money comes into the current fund. When they do work on the county system, the money's already in there because the tax levy's put in there, the highway aids are put in there, whatever wheel tax or what have you is in there. So what it does not do, it does not separate the true customer, meaning the county. The county is paying for work on county roads. So by establishing this fund, the county would put in this fund all of the revenues that you receive to maintain your county trunk highway system, the tax levy that you're budgeting and levying to do work on the county system, and then monthly, the highway department would do its work on the roads, maintaining them, and bill the town, bill the state, and they bill the county. That would show up as revenue in that fund, so that in the end, whatever is in the county highway fund should be the net result of what they've done as a business operation, a proprietary enterprise operation. And in most places, the state does set the rental rate on the equipment so that you have funds to purchase equipment down the road, so that you're not having to borrow for those types of things. It helps identify and separate and keep those things separate, so that you have the information you need to make decisions. And in our opinion, from what we have seen, it is just a better environment for that to occur. So that is a recommendation we would definitely think it would help Trempealeau County out. Another thing that we have seen is typically when municipalities self-insure for something, they're setting up an internal service fund for that, not running it through the general fund. Your workers' comp fund probably should be in a separate fund, just so that you're segregating it formally and keeping it on your books that way. So we are recommending you set up that separate fund and do it in that manner, which should be a pretty easy fix. The next item is internal control improvements, which I'll turn back over to Mike.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And I know maybe we're taking up a little more time than you planned, but I would just like I can speed this up a little bit. These are now we're probably not the more significant comments and recommendations we have are not here. Internal control improvements, and this is not unusual that we find that there's not written documentation for all financial processes. And this includes some of your general systems, as well as each department has certain financial processing systems. So we believe it's certainly best practice to have written documentation for new staff, just so everybody's aware of the timing and the process for doing financial duties. We also saw where you have a number of outside or departmental bank accounts. We believe there should be existing internal controls over those. And we did notice some of them do have proper controls. Some of them have money that could maybe be invested. It just the least number of bank accounts you have, we feel is what you should strive for. Sometimes these accounts were established years ago, and there really doesn't need to be a need for a separate bank account anymore. Can be easily handled through the general bank account. Like I say, just the documentation with other counties we've seen, that is something that evolves over time and is probably not kept up in a lot of places, but it's always a good idea to have that for various reasons. And then just to as a final thing there, we have other best practices. Obviously, you're saying, well, how are we going to do this? How can we do all these things here? Well, like Steve said at the beginning, nothing happens overnight here. We think a good way to start it is with a internal financial team. And just to say too, you do not have a county finance director, with the advanced knowledge and training and experience. And that you're not unlike many other counties, and some that we've recently worked with. It's get your best financial minds in a room together, meet often, and talk about together how you're going to implement some of these things. We feel you need additional assistance to do this. And as you see, we've offered a contract to do some of that or to help with as needed to do this. But we also, I think Steve mentioned too, the personnel that we met with at the county in the general uh, uh, governmental systems and also the department. We feel you have a great group of staff that are excited about changes, are very knowledgeable in their certain areas, and I think would work well with a team and a kind of a team approach to these systems. And then we also have on there as a final comment, I think it was create a uniform grant guidance. And this is again um, probably not the most important thing, but as it is important looking forward to have a consistent policy regarding state and federal funds that the county receives. And there's like 13 potential compliance items that each grant program has. Some don't have all of them. And there should be documentation on how the county is in compliance with those. And we can help with that too. We've helped a number of counties develop those policies. So I know there's a lot there, a lot of different areas. I guess we'd welcome any comments or, how what you think and maybe just your, what your reaction is to some of these would help us and Rebecca as we go forward.
Anybody else have any comments? I have a question or maybe two. Under the budget amendment that you're recommending, I understand the efficiency of it, but should that policy include a monthly report like to this committee so that we and constituents watching on the TV see these things happening as information to
Yeah.
us and them? Is that something that should be included in that policy?
Yeah,
A
yes,
mandated,
that is.
a mandated regular
I'm sorry.
report? Okay, yep.
Yeah, I didn't include that in my oral comments, but yeah, anything that would be changed, let's say you grant authority to like the administrator to administratively approve the departments accepting the money. All of those budget amendments would then come to the committee to show what was approved, for you to be informed and like you said, for the public to be informed. Yeah, so there would be a procedure set up so that, it's not a secret. That's not the point of it. It's just to make things a little smoother where they can be smooth. Obviously, some issues will have to run the full gamut and run all the way up to the county board approving it. But there are a number of instances where it could be much easier for a department to accept, an amount of money and keep rolling down the road. And I would think we'd want them to do that, to accept the funds to help offset the cost. And that's, yeah, but it would be all reported out.
Okay, thank you. Adi?
Yeah, you made the statement that you said that on the Co-Aid Road with the townships, that, they don't do it in the
Yes.
they don't do it on the eastern part of the state, so it's wrong to do it here? Have you been here to see what our roads are compared to the eastern part? That's not a fair
No.
statement, I don't think, on your part.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I was just saying it was new to me. I mean, that's I wasn't making a judgment on the program. But obviously, it takes a county tax levy to support it. I was more concerned about the accounting of it and the separation of the balance in that fund. That's the biggest concern there. No, I'm not. No, sorry if you took that, I wasn't making a judgment on, just haven't seen it before, so.
Yeah, we're not in any way saying eliminate the program. But like Mike said, in your financial statements, it shows a cash balance, which makes it appear as though the county would have cash available to it, when in fact, some of the cash is there for the benefit of a township, and that should be shown separately so that it's not shown like it's the county's cash. So for those reasons, we felt we needed to comment on it. It's not that it's a bad program or it should be eliminated or anything like that. It was just that the accounting around it should be more transparent and informative to show county funds versus funds held for the benefit of another party.
I got one more question. You said that the highway funds, when they do work for the county or the city or a township, there's no way they're gonna get billed, they'll bill the township or the city appropriately. Well, they do it now. And we see that on paper when we go to the highway meetings. You see that, okay, they did work for the city or county or township of Trempealeau. This much money went in, they got billed for this, and even with the state. And most of the time, they're pretty up to date. The only one that lags once in a while is the state. The state will fall sometimes 6-8 months behind. But we do that now. What would change in this new system that you're recommending?
Sure. So the county would become a customer like the city or the state, and the department would bill them. So the funds you as a county board would appropriate for work on the county road system would stay in a separate fund and tracked, so that at any point in time, if the county highway department finished a county road, you could go there and see what it cost. Currently, the county's tax levy and all the county trunk highway aid and whatnot gets dumped into the current fund, and you can't identify how much of the cash was spent on county roads versus what's available for machinery purchases. By doing it the way that we're
That's totally
describing.
separate. Machinery purchases are totally separate from road work charges. And the road work charges, if they do a county road, or if they mow the grass, or that get billed right away to that. You can go there anytime
Yeah.
and see what it cost. If we did 2 miles on County Trunk V, you can go in there and ask them, they have an accountability of exactly what that county road cost. And
Well,
it'll
all
be
I
up
can
to
tell
date.
you is when
And-
we
and
met
but-
with your county,
But the equipment purchases is totally separate. That's a totally separate fund, so you can't lump that in there.
well, it is lumped in though, the way you're doing it right now.
No,
That's the
it's-
thing we're trying to say.
Yeah, if I can just comment a little bit, Steve, too, is, well, first of all, the way we're suggesting is the method recommended by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Because what you have now is not a true enterprise fund, because there's no matching. I mean, there's individual matching of projects and all that. But say you end the year with $1 million of cash. Now, is that unspent money that was appropriated for county roads? Or is that accumulated funds from machinery earnings that are going to be used to replace equipment? Or in your case too, is that money held for the township road program? So, I mean, there's 3 things there that we feel need to be separate. And we talked about the township road program to do it through a separate, what we call restricted cash account. But the Wisconsin DOT does not recommend that tax levy and state aids go directly into an enterprise fund.
I think what might be helpful,
it-
oh, I'm sorry. I think what might be helpful
Sure, go
is, actually, if we looked at the funding and kind of walked through it another time as a part of our building out and looking at that. Because I know we do talk about it separated always when we're at meetings and talk about the machinery fund and those types of things. But I think if we had even had you join us for highway at some point and just kind of point that out would be helpful to walk through maybe some of those things so that we can see what you're talking about.
Yeah, and
I think
we would certainly be happy to do that, yeah.
I think Becky just said what I was thinking of saying here, that this is the details our conversation for another time at this point. I understand Audie's point. I think I sort of comprehend your point, I think. But that's a down the road discussion, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to correct my, make a couple points.
Right.
and let it go.
Yep.
Yep.
Mr.
No, and I can just say this one thing too. Wherever we have met with the county and recommended this, typically the county highway commissioner is very much in favor of it because it does allow them and they are able to show the benefits of their crew's hard work by keeping separate their machinery income from any county assistance for county roads that, you know, is mixed into the current system that you have set. And I agree, it would be nice to show you that so that it's very clear. It's, again, like Mike said, we should have covered it in the beginning, but the DOT does recommend this method of doing it for Wisconsin counties.
And I think that we want to do what DOT is recommending. I think it's our feeling that we already do some of that, so that's why it would be helpful to actually see what it is that the difference would be. But
Supervisor Turner has a question.
First, a comment, I think that looking at all of these things, I think at least 5 of them I've seen and noticed is kind of something that's a little bit convoluted, although each department works very well in creating and looking at their budget and staying on top of it. This program really integrates everything, so you can look at everything as one big picture at the same time to see the health of the county's finances. And that's, I think, the thing that I really like about this. I would also, I don't know if this is something that a resolution is required, but up until we would need such things, I would recommend that this committee at least gets a monthly update on all 14 of these recommendations, as far as what the progress is and how are we doing, because obviously we know there's some short-term fixes and some more long-term fixes.
I guess, in regard to that, I'll refer to Corp Counsel. Is this something we should create a resolution accepting this report and something in regard to what
If you
we
wish.
expect?
Yeah, it's a good question. If you wish to accept this report, that's something that has been done historically, for example, the solar committee. So you could do that. If you just want more informally an update, you could have that as well.
What's the wishes of this committee? You want to go with formal, or you want to just take the council's recommendation or suggestion of just keeping it informal, but we want to be updated? Anybody?
Does Corp Counsel have a recommendation?
I think you could do either, this is more of a discussion that may come up in a couple of minutes. It is possible that, well, I don't know if you need it this month or next month. I guess that would be the question.
I would just say, if you're okay with us continuing to bring reports forward and working with you on that, I mean, I feel comfortable in saying, and looking at those. I think the first thing is forming our internal team and to continue to, that's coming up here, is working through and with Government Solutions, is to continue looking at how we can start to implement some of these things, and following up with meetings to help us better understand. I think where there are some areas where we need to learn a little bit more about where we could grow. So I'd be in favor of, if you're okay with us internally continuing to bring the 14 forward and continuing updates.
Okay. Anybody disagree with that philosophy? Okay, that's where it stands. Did you gentlemen, did they sign? No, you're still here. Did you have anything else for us?
No, I think we've completed our presentation. We would just like to thank you for the opportunity to work with Trempealeau County and look forward to assisting with and moving things forward for you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank
Thanks to both of you. You've been great to work with. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca.
Okay, we will move on to item 8. Ann Hempel with Land Records update.
Morning.
Good morning.
I can't remember if I sent this to Paul digitally. Okay, I couldn't remember. I was gonna apologize if I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is from June 23 to June 2024. The first page is always the data layers that we work on. The second page just highlights some of the things that are annual thing, the 2024 grant payment schedule. I do want to note that our grant was reduced by $60,000 from 2023. The WISE Decade Boundary Collection is every January and July. This year, we have not had any annexations, so I won't have to do a submission. And that is submitting for all the municipalities. That's okay. I do submit for all the cities and townships that are expected to submit. My parcel data was accepted by the state of Wisconsin May 28th, so I'll be getting that $10,000 strategic initiative grant. The other thing I wanted to note is our 2022 LiDAR flight. The hard drive was finally delivered on April 30th. And then we have a user-friendly online application that anyone can go and check out on our website. I did submit on page 3, I have the Wisconsin Land Information Grant Reporting due June 30th of every year. I did submit that, and I just wanted to give you the amount of money that we spent last year in land records programs. It was $235,000, which is $100,000 over what we were receiving, so. I'm still looking into the competitive grant for the NG 911. I have to get 2 bids from 2 different companies before I can move forward with that. Our web mapping application has been live for a year now. They added our new aerial flight, and I just have the yearly breakdown. So far this year, there has been 471,000 requests from the application, which is someone clicking on it, looking for more detailed information on a parcel. And then there's that ROI calculator on here, and that comes from the website. It shows how much money and time is saved when we have a website like this working. It saves time for the taxpayer and for us employees, so we can work on all these other things we're working on. Does anyone have questions? Yeah. I know that'll just increase. Some of the more fun things that we've been working on, if you want to call it fun, created a zoning map for the village of Strum, so they didn't have to hire an outside entity to do that. Created a zoning density layer. We did update the Wisconsin Senate and Assembly District map and printed them out for each municipality. And right now we are working on upgrading our tax and assessment software So we're working with the treasurer and the real property lister and zoning and conservation to come up with a new software that'll work for us. We're also going to get together with Corp Council and Register of Deeds to talk about Daniel's Law, which will be going into effect next year, which protects the privacy of judicial officers. And the other thing I did want to mention, under training and conferences for 2024, that the real property lister actually came to the County Towns Association unit meeting and gave a nice presentation and explained to the towns the repeal of personal property tax and how to move forward with that. Oh, I did present at the Parks and Tourism Economic Development Committee in April too, to highlight our local things to do around Trempealeau County web mapping application. Does anyone have questions for me? I made it short and sweet.
Only one dumb one from the chair. On top of page 2, anything in blue is a requirement by the state for grant funding. The only thing I see in blue is
Yeah,
that.
I noticed that it didn't print in blue.
Okay,
I noticed that too. I
Okay.
apologize for that.
okay,
It's just kind of for one, we have new printers, and for two, I see it's kind of a slightly different shade in there, but it's not. But I can tell you if you'd like to know what's required.
yeah. If it's pertinent, it probably, I mean, it's not a long list, is it?
No.
Okay.
It's the WISE Decade Boundary Collection, statewide data collection, the Trempealeau County LiDAR flight, and our aerial flight, and we have to have a web mapping application.
Thank you.
I apologize for that. Yeah, I don't know. I just noticed that when I sat down, so.
Okay, anything else? Thank you. Paul Severson, quarterly update from the county clerk.
Okay, office is running smoothly. We are working on election, oops, I'm gonna turn this on. We are working on elections right now. Ann mentioned the maps. We're happy that the maps at least have total municipalities. We were afraid they were gonna get split up, so every township is in a district, not 2 or 3. We are going from 1 Senate district and 1 Assembly district to 3 Assembly districts and 3 Senate districts. So and 5 of those 6 districts are up for election this fall. The 6th one, which is a Senate district number 10, which is the northern part of the county, is not in the election this time because it's an even number. Only our odd-numbered Senate districts are this time around. So that's a big thing. And like Ann said, she made those maps up. We gave them to all the municipalities so they could see where they are. Our election ballots are all separated that way too. I think for November we have 54 ballot styles. I think it's something like that. So it's a little bit more work for us, but we're getting it done. The audit is winding up right now. We've got a couple things to give to the auditors yet. And that's why I mentioned to Dave that the resolution for the overruns is getting too late for audit, so it'll just show up as entries in the audit. I did the interview with Standard & Poor's on our financial condition, I guess you'd call it, and we maintained our AA- rating, so we didn't go down. We still have the negative outlook part, which is we appear to be borrowing too often. And we did do a year now without borrowing, but I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen in the next budget process. The other was that we are also using a lot of our general fund. There's a lot of transferring. So those are the two things that kind of were negative things. Using our general fund to balance our budget. And of course, for '24, we did not use any general
I'd
fund
say
to
we should have
balance.
improved on that category this year.
So we did improve, yes. We did get the new rates for retirement. It's gone up. We were at a 6.9%. We are now at 6.95% that we'll be paying, the county will be paying towards employees' retirements. And I think I've got everything. And I've sent that out. Becky had me send out the budget worksheets, so they're out there already. People are working on them. We're gonna find out in August how much our net new construction lets us to increase our levy, which is, I'm afraid it's not gonna be much. So budget will be tight again. That's about it.
Any questions?
In July, aren't we supposed to get a 0.5% increase on the sales tax revenue?
Well,
Isn't that supposed to start in July?
I think it is, but I'll have to watch and see. I haven't seen any increase.
I think it's supposed to start July 1st. We won't see that until probably
That'd probably be a September.
September before you ever see it.
Well, technically, no, it should be right away because the taxes that we're paying on products isn't changing. It's, the state is just giving us more. So, right. So we'll
It
see
needs
that
to be
increase.
seen.
That probably will help our sales tax revenue.
maybe, depending on which numbers I've heard are accurate, or if it's somewheres in between.
I think I mentioned to this committee a while back that I contacted the Department of Revenue and wanted to know how they came up with the numbers they did, and they couldn't tell me. And there's no way I can figure, why did we get 270,000 last month? We say, well, it must have been car sales or something. I mean, it doesn't, there's no breakdown from the state saying, okay, this was tourism or this was someplace down the line. I'd like to know that stuff, but.
So,
I've done a bit of research on that in the past, and they're very protective of that information.
Oh, I know.
They
I
don't-
even had
Yeah,
quote-unquote friends down there that told me they couldn't even tell me.
yeah.
so, okay, well, with no questions, thank you, Paul. Next item up is Treasurer Lori Halama, and Susan Fisher, with the open and review bids for tax foreclosure properties.
Morning. As you remember, we had 11 parcels that we were putting up for sale. We received 3 bids. So we're going to open them now. Adi, you want to open them?
It'd be nice if somebody bid on all of them in one.
Yeah. Okay, the first one is a bid on parcel number 173-00132-0000. The bid is for $15,150. Let me just make sure that that is the minimum. Yes, the minimum on that parcel was $12,400. And he did give us a bid bond for the 10%.
I would move to approve. That sounds good. to
That
me.
was a house in Pigeon Falls that was condemned.
Move to approve.
Before I accept that, Corp Counsel, do we have a
We,
decision on my question?
we have to wait to see if there's other bids.
If there's another.
First.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they all three bid on the same property.
Okay, this is a bid on parcel number 186-00334-0000. That's in the village of Trempealeau. The minimum bid amount that we were asking on that one was $2,000. The bid that I received was $2,200, and he did give us a bid bond for $210.
Did you say 2,200?
Yes,
And the bid bond was?
for $220.
Oh,
That's 10%.
I thought you said 210.
Okay, the last bid that we received was on parcel number 002-117-0001. This is a parcel in the town of Albion. It was a landlocked parcel, and I believe that this person that bid owns property adjacent to it. So the minimum bid was $700. His bid was $750, and he did give us a bid bond for $75.
I'll make a motion, we approve the three because they all cover their minimum price.
So the way that this is noticed, it is just open and review bids. There's no action item within this. So Supervisor Larson and I were discussing the potential to reviewing any sort of acceptance 10 minutes before the county board hearing, if that's possible.
Okay,
Okay.
And I'll be there if you need.
yep.
So we would make a motion here to move it on to county board with the presentation we had, is that what we're saying?
What I'm saying is I would like to see a brief meeting pre-county board
Pre-county board, okay,
to review whether these are acceptable to the committee.
okay. Okay, I don't know, would Lori have to attend that meeting?
I'll attend it, so if Lori's not able, I'll be there.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
So, okay, then they can decide at that time if they want to move on to putting the
Yeah.
remaining parcels up for rebid.
right.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, the other 8. And would it be possible, Lori, if you could scan those in and send it to either me or to the committee members?
yep,
And so then we can just have those numbers right in front of us.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
Could I ask if we could move up item E before D?
E before D.
Correct.
I
gotta leave it?
I don't have an issue with it, I assume we're running into a schedule problem. Hey,
I'm sorry.
How long is yours gonna take?
No, I just wanted to have my discussion that might, because I wanted some direction from you that I thought might impact D.
Oh,
Oh,
All I'm doing is for maintenance is I was given a check from Focus on Energy for $40,188.48 for primarily for this
efficiency
project
items.
for energy rebates and whatnot for this Justice Center.
okay, so,
I do not have a revenue account. I didn't know I was gonna leave it up to this committee. The only thing that I was going to say was whether you put this either into my budget under 220, which was my utilities, which is basically what this is from, to cover any potential overruns, but I do not redoing my budget, even though exec finance, you guys did cut me a little bit last year, but I obviously don't foresee $40,000 in over expenditures and utilities. So I know Rebecca has another option on what she wants to do, so pretty much it's just giving you guys this check, telling you what it was for, and letting you decide where it's going to go.
okay, good enough, thank you.
That's only because Lori.
Okay. That was the only thing you had, Jeremy?
That's all I have at the
Okay.
moment. The rest of it, it's still up to, now it's up to.
Okay. Okay, so now we'll move you up.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You can't move it up. We did that one.
That was,
That's as far up as she gets.
Yeah.
okay.
Do you want to read this?
Here we are. Discussion, action regarding CapEx funds received.
Thank you. I'm not really looking for action, I guess I'm looking for direction. So you're more familiar with this history than I am, so I'm coming in after this, and so that's why I'm looking for some direction from you. I've got a little bit of background from others, but you're aware of the CapEx funds that came in from the high voltage lines. There was a total of a little over 1.2 million that came in at that time. This is an additional check of $162,150 from the state of Wisconsin for final payment for the environmental impact fees. The impact fees had been originally earmarked for park conservancy, wetland, or other similar programs from Wisconsin statute 16.964.4. However, municipalities may petition the Wisconsin Public Service Commission to spend the funds in alternate ways that serve the public interest. And so if you look at the PSC online, there's many various ways to spend those funds any way you pretty much want to. So that's why I want to come to you for some direction, because it's my understanding that the history of this has been like a discussion between the Parks Committee and also exec finance, and it was kind of put on hold. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the potential of those funds being used to create economic development for the county. And if you'd have some interest in that, again, I'm looking for direction on whether to continue this research and bringing back more information for you on what that would look like. But this is something that I think it could look like. Right now, there is a development fund that's through the Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission, and it's a economic development fund that provides loans that are based on job creation. And it provides funds between $20,000 and $40,000 for each new job that's created. So it's not real, and it's not really specific to small business startups. And so my interest is really more in looking at how small business is really important to our small communities here. We have a fund through this and also TID that helps on larger developments that we might be able to attract. What I'm kind of thinking of and was interested in are small business opportunities to provide seed capital to help new business ideas and get up and running. There had been a program in the past that the state had kind of helped with some of this Main Street development on small business. That's gone. And I'd also like to at least research, I've seen very good success with facade improvement programs, and how could a program like this possibly benefit our communities, and how the county is partnering on that. So it's a question of just me bringing forward, would there be interest that if I took the conversation further and looking at this, how we might be able to develop something like this. I think what's interesting right now is that the state of Wisconsin, through Wisconsin Economic Development Fund, has or Economic Development Corporation has a fund that's called the Catalyst Program that's a match. So if we would take that 162 or some portion of that and put it with the state and apply through this program, they would match whatever we would put in, so it would double that. Certainly, then there are other conversations that could happen across the county as far as forming other interested parties that might be interested in this thing as well and adding to that. And specifically, I've worked on this type of thing in the past with banks that have community dollars that might be interested in seeing business grow and seeing communities develop. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, and before we go too far down that road and continuing the research on this and bringing that forward to you, if that is of interest. The Parks Group, of course, they would like to see it specifically for the parks. And as you know, it was identified for those types of things in the past. My question would be if a small portion of that would be to maybe, if we're looking at the 162 specifically, if a portion of that was set aside for, maybe a couple small projects that they have in mind yet for the summer. We would love to see a housing study done across the county. That's been brought before, and I've had multiple conversations with some of the leaders across the county in looking at the importance of housing and how that we could be a catalyst also as the county in leading some of that. And then as well as the funds that Jeremy just brought forward, and again, how those funds could possibly be added on where we could double what we're looking at. So anyway, I'm just kind of throwing out a whole bunch of things, but that, looking for a little bit of direction from you.
Go ahead.
I know, I think that economic development portion is important for our county. But again, I would like to see that maybe potentially be a partial amount. I also think that improving that parks recreation strategically, location-wise, also improves our economic development. I know there's some projects throughout the county, whether it be Petrick Park or in the village of Trempealeau, that would benefit and improve the economic development. So I would kind of like to see the full picture and see, I think this is worth pursuing. But at this point, I don't think our committee knows, okay, how much bang will we get for our buck as far as if we put 40,000 into it and we get a match, what can that get us versus what maybe can improvements of the parks or some recreation areas? I think this committee a year ago, or maybe less than a year ago, had kind of decided that previous projects that CapEx funds were put into would not be included in these expenditure of funds. Is that correct?
Not necessarily be included, but it wouldn't go.
Not be first on the list.
Right,
kind
right,
of
yeah.
Priority-wise.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm getting like, through what you're saying is feeling like more information coming forward, might be good if I had more specifics and brought things forward that you might be interested in that. I will just say, and I agree on the look at outdoor recreation as very important to driving community development, tourism, and all of those things. My concern is saying $162,000 really doesn't get us much. And where I'm looking at $162,000 doubled, and then possibly partnerships with individuals might be of more interest and get us a little further than, but I don't disagree with you, and that is where I'd like to be able to say maybe a portion would go to specifically the park in order to complete a couple projects, but.
Paul?
I was just going to comment a little about the history, but I think Bridget hit a lot of that in her comment about how we had a committee back when we got the $1 million, and they went and solicited projects, and there was like 40 some of those, and when the money came through, only about 25 got, the rest didn't. And
And backing up just a half a step to Jeremy's money. At budget time, you were quite concerned about whether we gave you enough money to pay the bills for the year. I mean, this is kind of in that same category. How do you feel you're coming with the budget and,
The only one I was concerned about and still am at the moment is my utilities, which is the electric, and I'm waiting on one more bill to give me a strong average of what this is,
Okay.
because for the past 4 weeks is when all 4 chillers of this building, all 4 air conditioners have been running at once, which is what really skyrockets my electricity. Right now, I am on pace to still be in the positive at the end of the year, but if this new bill is in, close to 30 grand for some reason, then I'll have an issue. But looking at the rest of my budget, it should be a wash, because the way my budget is set up, if I overspend in one line
Yep.
and underspend in another, it washes out. So I don't foresee
a deficit?
a deficit, and if it is, it should be significant. But like I said, I would know by hopefully the next electric bill that I'm gonna be pretty close. So
Okay.
the rest of it was, everything else right now is gonna be a wash, just because of stuff that I prepaid last year with some of that in anticipation because my budget got cut, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Adi?
Yeah, Rebecca, unless I missed it, you talked about the housing study, what would that cost?
Probably upwards of 40-some thousand.
And what would it get us?
What would it get us?
Other than tell us that we know we need housing
I know.
in this county, we're short on housing.
I know.
But I mean, does it open any other doors for us for helping anybody build houses or anything?
Well, I kind of struggle with that a little bit in saying, I don't know. In my conversations with developers, I don't think that, I've never had anyone really asking me for a complete study. I've shared those things. I think what happens is when a developer is very serious about a development, they do their own study to make sure that they're investing in the right project. I think what makes a study more helpful is when you're applying for a lot of funding and things. I mean, it really is necessary for government help and grants and things like that. You kind of have to have those types of things to reference.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my only comment is matching funds always gets my attention, so follow what other comments and you know where
Okay,
I'm at, yeah.
okay,
I think at this point, we're looking for more information.
okay, good,
Put
good.
put the checks on hold.
Okay, I
I'm
will.
looking for
I
more
will bring
information.
some
Is
more.
that a fair assessment of what we came up with?
We can bring this up at the short meeting we plan to have before the next board meeting. And it gives us a little more time to think too, so put it on the agenda for that next.
The next one? Yep.
Might have to make it a hair longer than originally planned, but
Or, well, either way, you're talking about the meeting right before county board.
yeah.
That might, well, maybe for a quick report. I don't know if we want to
Sure.
plan for an extended conversation at that point.
Would be too late to get it on the county board agenda anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if you did action on
Right.
that night, unless you knew ahead of time.
So we can probably
Oh, that
ask
would be
for
up to Susan. I'm gonna let
an
that-
update at that meeting for us to have more time for our next month's meeting here.
Sure.
Is that,
I can give a little bit more substance to.
right,
Yeah.
yep.
To that, and I'll make it short, but I'll just give you a little bit more substance of like a plan.
Okay,
That makes sense.
okay. Anything else on the CapEx funds, or have we got it covered? I think we pretty much.
That's it.
Going back up to D,
D?
I gotta put this money someplace.
Put it on your staple it to your clip, or to your bulletin board.
We're not
Change
getting
boards.
any interest on it if I
Okay,
don't
that's
cash
true,
it.
that's true.
Fun in the meantime, right? Or
Well,
is
then
that
it- then
the
it's
right
just
place
gonna-
to go?
That's what Jeremy was kind of, we were talking before, then it'll just go into my miscellaneous revenue account, which will close out into the general fund if you don't do something with it
Goes out into general fund when, at the end of the year?
at the end of the year.
So if we put it in there now,
They
and
should
next
have some
month or
interest.
the month after, we decide whatever to establish a separate account or
Got it.
go have a party or whatever, it comes back out of there as, and that's identified as the amount in there. I guess that'd be my suggestion, is put it in that general revenue fund now with,
Perfect suggestion.
okay,
I'll do that.
okay. Now I think we're done with through A through E, I believe, yep. Item 9, discussion and action on opioid settlement resolution.
You didn't send me the resolution,
I
though,
did. That's okay, I brought
This
copies.
morning?
I did,
over the weekend?
no, a couple weeks ago. That's okay, I brought copies. So I'm gonna bring, or give you extra copies of the opioid settlement resolution. If you recall, and I can say this in front of the mic as well, we started talking about this last month.
I'm gonna hunt that down.
So this was one of the documents that I was waiting on last month, and I had received it probably just a matter of days after our last meeting. This is a resolution to authorize Trempealeau County's agreement to enter into a settlement agreement with the Kroger Company. That would allow us to receive settlement proceeds as part of the opioid litigation from Kroger. I looked at this document, I know you have, it's a lengthy document, so I can just give you a second to take a look at it a little bit longer.
Didn't this come in online last month?
Yeah,
As
I
looked-
sent it
Okay,
to you
okay,
as
all of a
part of
sudden
it
I
as the
started looking
chair.
at whereas, and I said, I've seen this before. Yep,
Yeah, we took care of it pretty quickly
Yep.
to make sure that it had Trempealeau County and review it and so forth. It is very similar to previous litigation, previous documents you've seen. I have not seen final numbers. We discussed the formula last month and the percentages that Trempealeau County would receive. I have not seen the final numbers from the Kroger settlement, but it would be roughly 32% of the remaining amount that goes to the Wisconsin participating subdivisions. So remember, the state takes some, then we get what's left over, we get 0.32% of that. I would also note that we discussed it last month. If we are to agree to it, we really need to do it in July, because I have to submit this prior to the time scheduled for the county board. Any questions? A lot of information was presented last month, but I certainly can.
So you said this is very similar to the previous ones that we've seen, and it does appear, is there anything in here that jumps out at you that appears to be a little bit different in any way?
No, that's a really good question. This is very consistent. I do have the memorandum that the chair would be asked to sign if the county board does approve of it. It's very consistent throughout the process. All of the terms are consistent. There really isn't any significant change, as you know, that if we agree to receive these funds, we would need to use them for opioid abatement.
is it
Then,
strictly opioid or any drug?
Opioid unless it's a dual diagnosis. There's a little bit of wiggle room if it's a dual, but you'd have to go through and really pay attention to what it is.
so I would make a motion to approve resolution authorizing the county to enter into a settlement with the Kroger Company.
Do I have a second? Second, okay. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That one's quick. The 2023 overruns, Paul, you said we've put it off? Take care of it, okay. Got that one.
Paul, do you want me to pass this or sign it, pass it around?
Review and possible, item 12, review and possible approval of agreement for Services Hourly Government Solutions LLC.
So this is a contract that you were given. This is, we had a similar contract with Government Solutions, that's Steve and Mike on here. And this would just be now, instead of the overall review that they did in the one cost for it, this would be hourly services. We've identified that there are a number of younger staff that are feeling like they'd really like to get a better grasp on budgeting overall and how to build their budgets. And so that would be the first thing they'd be tasked with, is running a meeting to have allow department heads to, they do a budgeting 101 with them. And then from there, individual meetings potentially with staff to continue to give them guidance and help. I think that's important as we have a younger group of department heads that are in place. And then, you know, again, I would be working with them to make sure that I'm online or on time-wise here in putting in some of the actionable things that they talked about. I think what I take away from that is looking at the forming an internal financial team, the ERP, HRIS system, and making sure that we're moving that forward and getting a system in place, working with that annual budget process, getting written documentation on specific financial processes in place. We don't have records of protocols, and so that's of concern to me when you're looking at individuals that are retiring and leaving, and so that we make sure that we have those things in place for new people to come in, and that we have it actually written somewhere so people can step into new positions. And then, you know, of course, they went over a lot of the accounting info and procedures. I think that's just something that, you know, through that we'll need to work through with this internal financial team. One thing that I thought was of real interest to me that I think is very important that I've seen in other counties is the vested compensated absences, that we have a lot on our books with the amount of sick and vacation time that we allow on the books and paid out. And so I think that's one thing that I would see of interest that we should really be working towards as well. So anyway, that's, with these guys in forming this contract, is continuing to move those things forward. This is paid through the health department ARPA funds that I had identified earlier as well. And so all of this also benefits the health department, so these funds are we can continue to use them, and I had set aside funds through those ARPA funds for this process as well.
Rebecca, my question is, so as far as the contract goes, I'm assuming Susan has seen it and
Yes.
it's kosher for legal reasons. But then, having said, you know, having our staff going through some of these accounting practices and taking this course, obviously we have staff that are probably very good at budgeting and others who are not. But will this be mandatory for all those? I mean, looking at what the fee that we're paying, I would like to see as many as possible attending, whether or not they're good at it, because you can always learn something new from any educational presentation. But I think that's almost a must-have, getting everyone on the same page. Is that your intent? Or where you would have a couple different sessions and everybody would be required to take one of the whatever?
So initially, my thought was that we have a very basic, it's just a 1 hour and a start, and that's actually scheduled for tomorrow, so that, because we're in the midst of this budgeting, and so that's an initial, we're going to record it. And then my initial thought is for those that need the very basics, and but that will be shared with everybody. And then from there, those individuals that want more specific or have specific questions, but you know, I could make the hour presentation something that is a follow-up everybody needs to watch that's involved with that. That's not a bad, I mean, I don't disagree, so I hadn't required it, but knowing that we have some very experienced individuals, but I think you're right. I mean, it doesn't hurt.
And at this point, this is just a report. This is not something you need anything from us for to sign this contract. It's just saying you're going to do it. Is that correct?
I think I need approval.
Do you?
I think.
You do?
I think it would be good if the committee could consider the agreement itself. It's a low amount, it's hourly right now, it's more of a continuation, so I don't think you need more than that, but if you could consider it for possible approval or denial,
Okay,
that would be great.
yeah. And your report stated the monies to pay for this are already
Identified.
identified.
And set aside, correct.
Set aside, allocated, right?
Correct. And I had identified, oh boy, now I thought I had that on the tip of my tongue. I believe I had identified an additional $10,000 set aside.
Okay.
Not that can't be adjusted, it can, but I believe, I thought that would be probably sufficient.
Okay, with that, we're looking for a motion to approve this
I'll
independent
make a
contract.
motion
Okay,
to
have a motion
approve the contract.
I'll second.
and a second, Patty. Any more questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
And then discussion, item 13, discussion possible action regarding courthouse renovation.
So, no action on this. I guess I'm, again, looking for some input from you. I had a meeting with Kurt and the venture group. I felt that the initial verbal amount that was shared with me on what it would cost to put the architectural plans together for some changes was quite high. And so I got a list of other potential architectural firms that we might be able to work with. I guess I'd like to put that out to other groups and asking them to consider what it would cost to have a plan done. I'm looking for your thoughts on it.
I'd be all in favor.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, we'll work on putting that forward then.
Okay. That was it? Okay. 2025 budget.
You're up again.
Yeah. 2025 budget, what can I say? Well, you've gotten a lot of kind of what's happening. So next, when we meet also right before the meeting, maybe we can add as well, before the county board meeting, I would like to bring forward just the updated timeline to you, and I will share that. And I had hoped to have a few more things for you today, but as I'm looking at, and again, adjusting with this timeline, I'd put, staff needed to have reclassifications and budget requests, new position requests to me on this past Monday, and I can't turn around quick enough to meet with everybody and get it to you today and put what I need to put into it. So, again, just kind of worked through that, and I think we'll be fine. I'll plan on our August 5th meeting that I will have a presentation for you and talking about that with you and bringing forward the CIP and what that looks like. And so at this point, I'm meeting with everybody that has made requests of staffing changes, reclassifications or new positions. I'm compiling information through CIP, and then again, we'll be forming this internal team to continue to work that forward and get that to you beginning of August.
Okay.
Question, Mr. Chair. And I don't know if this is a question between you and Paul, and we're a little ways out, but as far as when this committee meets and discusses the budget and goes through departments, usually that's what, a 3-day process? Is that going to change or be similar, adapted?
That will
I would
change.
assume it would be cut considerably in the
I-
time frame.
That was
Yep.
my assumption.
You guys won't be doing departments.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, so.
Right, but,
yep.
so then
But
you'll
then
be
at some
coming
point,
to the
we will
committee
see
and,
what you present in
Correct.
regard to each department, with us being able to ask questions, and
Yep.
I
So-
believe that's the process. huh?
Well, this is, so this is the process, so when they turn in their budgets, then I will be meeting with each of the departments like you normally do and go through the budget. And then we'll have an extra meeting, I talked to Paul about this, that we'll do in October, an evening meeting, which I call a budget workshop. And then I'll present that whole budget with information with you on changes and all of those types of things. So, and the staff will be, the department heads will be here, but it is not specific to going through line items
Not
in the
line item,
budgets
but-
or,
But it is the point where we are allowed some input, correct?
correct.
Like, we think you're too high here, why
Yep.
are you too high?
Yep,
up
ask
here? Yeah,
questions,
right.
you bet, yep, you bet.
Or you didn't provide enough here, or,
Yes, yes, right, yep.
okay.
so obviously it's kind of, and I know I saw your timeline before, I was kind of looking for it here briefly, but the only other reason I ask is I'm requesting of this committee and the scheduling of that. I have to do a governmental hearing that's slated for end of October. So are you looking at more the first half of October sometime?
Let me pull it up real quick if you can here, let me see if I can.
Give you the date when we have to have it to the paper. Say that was like about the third week in October, so it's gotta be before.
Right. I think I was planning on that week before the county board meeting, that we would.
Okay, that would be like the
Second
second week in
Yeah.
the month, so,
Yeah.
okay.
It'd be just a
think we're all good
one-day
then.
event instead,
Yes.
like, because you're gonna take care of
Right.
all the
Yeah.
prelims that we did before. yeah.
Right, right.
It's so much fun, I don't want to miss it.
Just a moment. Let me,
But it could get to be a long date.
I'd like to miss the hearing, that's what I
right. It could be hopefully a couple hours. Yeah. Let me just, let me just pull this up real quick for
So
you.
will we be slating like 2 budget workshops, like one to go through things and one if time is needed? I'd rather pre-schedule and cancel than to try to develop a night, 2 nights later.
It should be, let's see, when does the board, I don't think I have this right. Because oh yeah, we meet the 21st of October, correct? For the county board? Yeah. So October 14th is the extra meeting. And that's when, yes, you'd work through, you'd have questions, you'd go through things, and then it would come forward on the 21st again.
Will a packet be presented to us ahead of time to review on our own? Okay.
What time you schedule this, you said evening?
Yes, on the 14th.
Start at 5 or 6, in case it got lengthy, it would be here till midnight.
Sure. 6 o'clock, if that works for everybody.
Yeah, because that day would typically be human services at 4. So then they should
Marathon?
be done by, they'll need to
Yeah,
be done by
yeah.
6.
That would also be a property meeting.
So Okay,
Thank you.
we got that under
Yeah,
control?
thanks.
Okay, date and time of the next regular meeting would be August 5th, I believe, but we've also scheduled one for July 15th at 6 o'clock? 6?
Oh, sorry. Oh, got it. Yep.
Dave, could you just repeat that? I was trying to do something in my calendar.
That'd be July 15th at 6 o'clock, just prior to full county board.
Gotcha. 6 o'clock.
And then the regular meeting at August 5th at 8:30, as usual.
Thank you.
Anything else for this meeting? Motion to adjourn, please.
Move to adjourn.
Favor?
Yes.
Aye. And I hear no negative, so it is adjourned.